is the owner.
We'll be running it after hours. We close the pharmacy at 5:30. We're going to start the clinic at 6 o'clock. That allows us to, have a more controlled environment, have it a bit quieter, no music, lower lighting.
Hepner says they'll also have nurses on hand who are experienced in treating people with sensory issues. A therapy dog will also be available. Canada's Labour Minister is ordering an end to lockouts at Canada's largest ports, saying that the dispute is choking Canadian trade and threatening jobs. Kate McKenna reports.
I am committed to ensuring a swift resolution to protect our economy and the livelihoods of Canadians.
Labour Minister Steve McKinnon ordered the Montreal and Vancouver ports to be reopened and sent the labour disputes to binding arbitration, saying the lockouts threaten the economy and jobs.
These work stoppages are impacting our supply chain, hundreds of thousands of Canadian jobs, our economy, and our reputation as a reliable and international trading partner. We rely on the movement of goods through our ports.
The two ports handle over $1 billion of goods every day. In addition to ending the work stoppages, an ongoing dispute at the Quebec City port will also be sent to binding arbitration. This is the second time in months that the Liberal government has moved to end labour disputes. In August, it ordered an end to lockouts at 2 railways. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
Canada Post has responded to a strike notice from its unionized employees. The union has issued a 72-hour strike notice to the Crown Corporation that could begin November 15th at 12:01 a.m. In a release this morning, Canada Post says it intends to continue delivering for Canadians and Canadian businesses by operational means allowed under the Canada Labour Code. The two sides have agreed to continue allowing the delivery of socioeconomic checks during any labour disruption, including for seniors. Well, the Songwriters Hall of Fame is out with its list of nominees for 2025. It's like Alanis Morissette is among those on the shortlist. She's joined by Eminem, Boy George, and Janet Jackson. Bryan Adams is hoping to get into the class of 2025 thanks to his hits. Members of the Hall have until December 22nd to turn in their ballots. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg. Your next local CBC News is at 12:30.
Good afternoon and welcome to Radio Noon. I'm Laurie Hoogstraten. It's November the 12th. It's sunny outside. Looking through the control room windows, I can see flags at U of W on their flag poles just snapping in the wind. Bit windy out there, all right, gusting to 70. Well, it's Movember, so look out for men in mustaches in support of prostate and testicular cancer research. Coming up on our call-in today, the conversation we want to have is to help answer your questions about prostate cancer and offer tips on how you can help yourself or a loved one detect early signs. Give me a call at 204-780-0893. And solving the housing shortage for dogs, we'll meet a Brandon builder of dog domiciles, and he delivers. But first up, the provincial and federal governments announced new funding for the aerospace industry. The money will be used to train around 1,000 workers and create 100 new jobs right away at Standard Aero. Here's Premier Wab Kinew speaking this morning at an engine test bay at Standard Aero.
We're super happy to be here to announce that we're going to be training up more than 1,000 Manitoba workers and creating 100 new good jobs here at Standard Aero. We're happy to be standing with the team here at Standard Aero and our federal government partners on this. And I got to say, promoting, being a booster for the engines that power the aerospace industry here in Manitoba, it's a good economic investment. It's also something that I think appeals to everybody who lives in Manitoba, hockey fans in particular. This is a dad joke I'm going to hit you with, but it allows us to say, "Go Jets, go." Our team, the federal government, Standard Aero, we're big believers in you, the workers of Manitoba, the people who show up each and every day. You are what power our economy here. We're so proud of healthcare, we're so proud of education and all these great things, but it's you folks showing up on the shop floor who pay for that, who make it possible for us to make investments in healthcare and in the high quality of living that we enjoy here in Manitoba so much. So making this investment in training the workforce of tomorrow, making this investment in the low carbon economy, the aerospace sector, being able to say that Manitoba is going to have jobs for decades to come, this is hugely important to the province that we're all building together. And so I want to thank you for the work that you do each and every day. And also, I want to add that we look at what happened in the United States of America recently. We look at what's happening around the world these days. It is going to be absolutely crucial that Canada and Manitoba have a strong stand when it comes to security. And your strength in the aerospace industry is really going to help us to be able to put that message forward to say that Manitoba and Canada are really important partners in keeping the world secure and safe going forward into the next generation. So this investment is about training workers. It's about ensuring that the best way that we grow the economy is by creating good jobs here in the province. But it also really helps us to send that message that Manitoba is going to be an absolutely critical partner for the United States and our allies as we go forward into the future. So we're really happy to be able to come together and share the good news around this announcement. I want to congratulate everybody who's been able to advance their training and advance their skills. We're really happy to work with our federal government partners and with Standard Aero here, but most importantly, we're happy to be working for you. So once again, miigwech, merci, thank you very much.
Now I would like to welcome Minister Vandell to the podium.
Filling current gaps in our labour force and making sure that employees are trained up to do the work necessary to grow our economy is a priority in Canada. And that's what this announcement is about. Making sure that Manitobans have the skills they need to be active in the next generation's labour force. In this year, 24-25, our federal government is investing $77 million here in Manitoba in partnership with the province in labour market agreements to make sure that Manitobans have the skills necessary to do the work that's necessary to grow the economy, a green economy, and to create economic strength right here in Winnipeg, in Manitoba. So we are very proud to partner with Manitoba today to invest over $510,000 under the Canada-Manitoba Workforce Development Agreement for the Industry Expansion Program. This funding will support your employee skills development for both new employees and current employees. As you know, this meets the objectives of the Industry Expansion Program, which is here to support employee training in businesses that launch new operations or expand existing ones here in Manitoba. This particular investment right here at Standard Aero will boost innovation and help the aerospace sector develop the talent and the specialized skills necessary to compete in the global market. And what better company than Standard Aero? And what better province than Manitoba to be investing in our aerospace industry? Standard Aero is one of our most venerable and successful companies in Canada, founded in 2011 and now a company with almost 7,000 employees in more than 50 facilities in North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia, and here at Winnipeg, its largest single site, employing more than 1,300 Manitobans. We know that Standard Aero is a very, very valuable asset to Manitoba, and I think we can agree that the most valuable asset of Standard Aero is its people. It's you that do the actual work. It's true that a well-trained, skilled workforce is what is needed to drive Canada and the rest of the Canadian economy into the 21st century. Our government is proud to support Standard Aero in their efforts to keep their own workforce equipped with the skills they need to stay on top of the game, your game. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Miigwech.
That was Dan Van Dahl, Northern Affairs Minister and Minister responsible for Prairie Economic Development, and before him, Premier Wab Kinew at Standard Arrow this morning.
New this month on CBC Gem, 2 of Canada's longest-running shows are back for their 18th seasons.
You're going to be introduced to a new world.
Murdoch Mysteries brings more intrigue and invention as Detective Murdoch faces new challenges.
I would say it's extremely bad form to arrest your new boss.
And over at Heartland, life on the ranch rolls along at a more relaxed pace.
Looks like Stetson's back to his old self.
Season 18 of Murdoch Mysteries and Heartland. Watch free on CBC Gem.
You're listening to Radio Noon, and it's Movember, bringing awareness about prostate cancer, which is the most common cancer among Canadian men. 1 in 8 men is expected to be diagnosed during their lifetime, and we want you to give us a call, 204-780-0893, with your questions for a cancer researcher and oncology professor who will be joining us, 204-780-0893. And they're panting to curl up inside free dog houses as winter closes in. We'll talk to the man who makes them in just a few minutes. Taking a look at the forecast, it's nice and sunny out there, but awfully windy. The winds are out of the south all across the province, gusting to 74 at the Winnipeg airport. And it's partly cloudy in most regions, except in Churchill, where there's snow and blowing snow. In Winnipeg today, a mix of sun and clouds, winds south 50 gusting to 70, highs of 7. Mainly cloudy tonight, chance of showers and lows of 4. And on Wednesday, an even better chance of showers in the morning and into the afternoon. The winds dropping down a bit and highs of 9 degrees. The temperatures all through the week are still staying above zero, at least during the daytime. And some temperatures for you around the province right now. In Brandon, it's 3, Churchill -6. In Dauphin, it's 4, Gimli 3, as is the Paw, Thompson 2. In Winnipeg, it's 5. And as I say, the wind is 52, gusting to 74. It is 16 minutes after 12 o'clock. Brandon realtor Zach Munn helps people find housing, but he also helps dogs by building well-designed shelters to keep out the winter cold. And the price is right. They're free. Plus, with the help of his friend Tyler Pearson, they deliver. The enterprise is called Munn Pearson Dog Houses, and the shelters give the phrase being in the doghouse a much more positive spin. We've reached Zach in Brandon. Hello.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for being here. So tell me, Zach, what inspired your doghouse project?
Well, I've always been an animal compassionate person, and I was just trying to think of a way that I could help out animals on my own time a little bit, just with my career in real estate. So with building dog houses, I can build them in my garage and with the help of others and accumulate some. And then when I'm ready to do a trip, I can put all of them together, grab an enclosed trailer, and head out to a community in need.
And where does your dog compassionate feelings come from?
Well, I've had a lot of people in my family that are animal compassionate people. My Aunt Tracy Munn, she's with the Brandon Humane Society here locally. And my sister also had a spay and neuter mobile clinic that she ran called Positive Communities. So definitely it's within the family, and I think just something that I've always been around that gave me that compassionate side.
Well, tell us a bit about getting it started and how you went about it.
Yeah, so it just started with a Facebook post. So I basically put out there that I was looking to help some communities in need, some families in need, and wanted to build dog houses and take them to northern communities. And that post got shared quite a few times. It had lots of activity, and since then I've had a lot of animal rescue groups that kind of reached out and said, hey, would you come to this community when we go? And it kind of evolved from there, where because those animal rescue groups are going into these communities to do spay and neuter clinics or take some animals out of the community, it allowed us to kind of tag in and provide the shelter to those own dogs that didn't already have it.
And what are the shelters like?
So they're very simple. We've had a design that's evolved over time, but we started with a lot of different designs. And what we use now is basically just a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and it uses every inch of that 4x8 sheet of plywood when we're building it. So it has an insulated base, and then it has essentially just a few walls and a roof, so it's a box. And when we build them this way, so they're a lot cheaper, of course, because of material waste, and we can actually stack them in the enclosed trailer.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were getting some built that had like a rafter roof style where it had a peaked roof, we found that we could only fit a few into the enclosed trailer. But now when we can stack them and put them a few wide, we can usually bring about 40 dog houses into these communities when we go.
So when you have just the flat roof, then I guess you can lift the roof off to clean it out and stuff, or because is it lined with anything to keep the dogs warm? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have done a few different things. So sometimes we do put some kind of like foam insulation in the walls, and then we do have a removable roof so they can actually pull the roof off, put some straw in there. And that's typically the biggest thing that these dog houses are is, a windbreak. It gets them out of the wind. We usually put a door flap on the door and load it with straw. So it's kind of just a way that the dogs use their own body heat to stay a little bit warmer and out of the elements, because a lot of these dogs, when we go to the communities, on the cold days, they're just outside. Sometimes they could even be chained to a tree. They could be, just kind of hanging out by a front door trying to get what heat they can from the house.
Mm-hmm.
And we find that, bringing these out, it's certainly a lot better than what they did have before. But if we were being really picky, we would like to build them a little bit bigger and then always fully insulate them. But, of course, that just gets into a lot more costs, and we can't bring as many out when we go as well. So depending on the trip, we sometimes will look at a dog and decide, do we give them the bigger dog house that we've made? Do we give them the smaller one? And, of course, if there's ever a dog that had a shorter coat or was a puppy, we always would make recommendations to say that those dogs should be left inside or not be out in the cold elements as well.
And what kind of reactions do you get from the dogs and also the people that you deliver the shelters to?
Yeah, so from the dogs, we've definitely seen firsthand that they're appreciated. So one community that we went into, Sapatoyak, I think it was about minus 45 when we were there that weekend. So it was really, really cold. And when we went into the community, there was dozens and dozens of dogs, and they were all just on decks and porches and cowered over just with their noses down. And when we left that community, you could see, chains or just dog noses in our dog houses, and you could just tell that it made a big difference, especially on that really, really cold weekend. And from the people, it's been very well received as well. A lot of times everyone really appreciates what we do, and we've had some great messages as well.
And would you encourage pet owners to try making their own shelters?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've tried to, get some people to look at our plans and send them our doghouse plan, because it's really straightforward. Like, I'm not a very handy guy, and if I can do it, I think anyone can do it, as long as you have a few power tools. So it's very easy for people to do. I think, if communities could implement schools or, group classes or something, you could bang quite a few out in a day if you had a good group working with you on it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that you use the 4x8 sheet of plywood and there's no waste and so on, but they still must cost something. How do you afford to build all these?
Yeah, so I've raised donations, but the first trip it was kind of out of my own pocket. I wasn't going into it with the idea that if I didn't get help, I wouldn't do it. I still was wanting to do my help. But I have raised some money, so every time I do a trip, I'm usually transparent in posting an Excel spreadsheet of where donations came from, what my costs were. I always attach the invoices so people can see that as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Brandon's been a great community. I think, a lot of people just, with me being a Brandon boy born and raised, I've got some great relationships with people here, and a lot of people have just reached out to help. And fortunately, I think ever since I've started, that bank account has always had funds in it. So whenever I want to build some dog houses, I've had the means to.
Well, it's a wonderful story to hear as the temperature starts to drop. Thanks very much for being with us, Zach.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Munn Pearson dog houses are a labor of love for Brandon realtor Zach Munn and his friend Tyler Pearson.
Rival Canadian brewers brawl on a beach in Australia.
Ouch!
A James Bond exhibit isn't allowed to mention the spy.
James Bond.
And what's the one word singer Robert Goulet will not utter?
I think I should call my manager.
Only in advertising. Stories from the front lines on Under the Influence with Terry O'Reilly. Thursday morning at 11:30, 3:30 p.m. in Newfoundland. And on the CBC Listen app.
You're listening to Radio Noon. It's 24 minutes after 12 o'clock. You're to 89.3 FM, 990 AM. I'm Laurie Hugh-Stratton. Tonight, on an all-new episode, this hour has 22 minutes, samples what's new at Costco.
Ooh, free samples. What do you got today?
Alcohol.
Booze at Costco?
Yes, Costco's in Ontario are now allowed to sell liquor and beer.
Oh.
Do you like wine?
Like it. I sweat it.
Well, I'm a Costco wine sommelier. Would you care to sample some?
Would I? Oh. Ooh.
It pairs very well with a double chunk chocolate cookie or a pound of cheese balls.
Oh, great.
Now, what about the nose? What are you smelling?
Tires?
And what do you get on the palate?
Oh, a pallet, usually a skid of water bottles and one for dog food.
No, I mean the taste. What notes are you getting?
Plastic?
Mm-hmm.
Hot dogs? Elastic waist pants? But there's something else.
Rotisserie chicken.
That's it.
And it's on special.
Oh.
3 for $6.
Perfect.
Oh, samples? What do we got?
Wine. I have a red.
Uh-huh.
A white.
Okay.
And for a limited time, electric blue.
Ooh.
Nah. Do you have any booze?
Do you like whiskey?
Yeah.
I have a scooch. It's not from Scotland, but it does come with a little roll of tape.
I love that.
Yeah, I'll do a shot.
Excellent, sir.
Don't be shy now.
Wow. So why did Costco start selling booze?
Well,
woo! I'm gonna go buy a flat screen TV, a giant teddy bear, and an inflatable kayak. Yeah! Woo! Woo!
That's why.
Woo!
Costco. Do the wrong thing.
An all-new episode of This Hour's 22 Minutes airs tonight at 8 o'clock on CBC, and it's available anytime on CBC Gem. I think we have time for a musical moment. A couple minutes left to the bottom of the clock. Let's hear from Jade Turner. She grew up in northern Manitoba and has always been inspired by dog sled races. The experience of being on the back of a sled is what inspired her song, That Wind. And that tune just won her Song of the Year at the Manitoba Country Music Awards this past Sunday. Here's Jade Turner with her Song of the Year, That Wind.
My daddy said, girl, you better answer when that wind comes at your back.
Jade Turner with That Wind, and that song won her Song of the Year at the Manitoba Country Music Awards this past Sunday. Coming up after the 12:30 news, give us a call, 204-780-0893, because we are talking about prostate cancer. It's Movember, and we will have a prostate cancer researcher, doctor on to answer your questions. So do give us a call, 204-780-0893. The news is next.
This is CBC News. Good afternoon. I'm Rosanna Hempel. At 12:30, it's +6 in Winnipeg. Cloudy today, a high of +7. The provincial and federal governments are giving Standard Aero more than $500,000 over 3 years for new jobs and training. Over the next 3 years, it will create 100 new jobs and train more than 1,200 employees. Premier Wab Kinew says the funding will strengthen Manitoba's aerospace industry.
This investment is about training workers. It's about ensuring that the best way that we grow the economy is by creating good jobs here in the province. But it also really helps us to send that message that Manitoba is going to be an absolutely critical partner for the United States and our allies.
Standard Aero says without the funding, it would likely have gone to another jurisdiction to expand and train its workforce. A South Osborne pharmacy will close its doors early next week to help those who are overwhelmed by traditional vaccine clinics. The medicine shop will hold a special clinic next Wednesday evening for those who live with autism or have sensory issues. Owner Jason Hepner says they'll turn the lights down and turn the music off to help people feel more comfortable.
Fewer people in the pharmacy, so less stimuli for people who might not deal well with that. We're also have a couple of nurses in to do vaccinations who have some experience with this population. And St. John's Ambulance is nice enough to send us a couple of volunteer dog teams.
Hepner says they're going to be flexible to people's requests. Ontario's premier is taking issue with the Canada-United States-Mexico trade agreement, the successor to NAFTA. Doug Ford says Mexico has become a backdoor for auto parts, cars, and other products from China.
You look at Mexico, they're importing cheap products, undercutting our hardworking men and women, not only here, but in the U.S., from China. They're slapping a Made in Mexico sticker on and shipping it up and taking our hardworking men and women jobs away from them.
Ford says he's proposing to the federal government that Canada should negotiate a bilateral trade deal only with the U.S. The current U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement is up for joint review in 2026. And after days of public pressure over an abuse scandal, Justin Welby is resigning as the Archbishop of Canterbury. Last week, a report revealed there was a prolific child abuser at the Church of England summer camps. The allegations date back decades. Welby says he failed to ensure there was a proper investigation, and he says he must take responsibility. As Archbishop of Canterbury, Welby was the spiritual leader of 85 million Anglicans worldwide. And that is the CBC News from Winnipeg.
Thank you, Rosanna.
You're welcome.
Joining me in studio now is weather specialist Riley Lachuk. Good afternoon, Riley.
Good afternoon. And I feel like a broken record when I say another above seasonal day.
Oh, I love it. Every time you say it. Keep saying it. It's good.
Yeah, another above seasonal day across southern Manitoba. Looking at temperatures really staying like we're seeing right now for another extended period here. So 6 degrees in Winnipeg at the moment, 6 in Portage, Brandon, Dauphin both at 5 at the moment, 4 degrees in Thompson, Churchill at -4. We are seeing a little bit of snow along that far northern part of the province again, along the Hudson Bay coast. Areas north of Thompson, for example, getting a little bit of light snow through the afternoon today. As expected, a mix of sun and clouds here in southern Manitoba. I know we did go through a little bit of a more cloudier start, at least through the mid-morning, at least we did see a little bit more cloud. Seeing some sun again and kind of expect that sort of ebbing and flowing, the needle going back and forth between sun and cloud through the afternoon hours today across the south. As we see some cloud building in to the overnight periods. This is because we have an area of low pressure that will skirt along the international border, bringing us a slight chance of a shower first thing in the morning tomorrow. Otherwise, we're looking at another kind of grayish day tomorrow before we start to see some clearing into Thursday, but still Thursday predominantly cloudy and a few sunny breaks by the time we get to the afternoon. In terms of snowfall to come for northern Manitoba, really Churchill looking at a couple of centimeters. Places like Lynn Lake could even get a couple centimeters through the later part of the week, but certainly the most of the snow today really centered into far northern Manitoba. Rainfall into the morning hours tomorrow. I'm saying scattered showers, so really not much in terms of accumulation, but into northwestern Ontario, we could see a few millimeters into the early part of the day tomorrow. But the story tomorrow definitely going to be the clouds. The story today, meantime, really the wind across southern Manitoba, looking at gusts, south 30 gusting to 50 in Winnipeg. Places like Gimli, Emerson, through Morden, Winkler, looking at 40 gusting 60 through the afternoon hours today. So a windy one. I've got Winnipeg and Portage both at 7 this afternoon. Could get to 8 in Morden and Emerson, for example. 7s to the west. Even Thompson looking at a 5-degree high today. I've got Winnipeg at 8 tomorrow, 6 for Thursday, Friday a high of 7 degrees. And some late day showers move through Saturday. Could be a couple snowflakes in there early Sunday morning.
Sounds all right. Say that wonderful phrase again.
Another above seasonal day, Lori.
Thanks very
You're
much,
welcome.
Riley. That's weather specialist Riley Lachuk, and you can hear him this afternoon on Up to Speed, and you can see him on CBC News at 6. You're listening to Radio Noon. It is 24 minutes before 1 o'clock. I'm Lori Hoog-Stratton. Well, it's the time of year when some men grow mustaches for Movember. That global endeavor brings awareness about men's health, and that awareness helps men understand how they can detect early signs of prostate cancer. Because 1 in 8 Canadian men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer. Early detection is critical, and that is the message of Movember. So are you wondering how you can protect yourself or a loved one from prostate cancer, and how vigilant do you need to be to catch it early? Are you wondering what steps you should take if you do have concerns? Give us a call at 204-780-0893 or text us at 204-588-7355. Joining us by Zoom is John Lewis, Professor of Oncology at the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry at the University of Alberta. Hello.
Hi, Lori. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Can't complain.
Good.
Things are good.
Good. So tell me, what impact has Movember had on men's awareness of prostate cancer and on men's health generally?
Oh, I think, all your listeners, I'm sure will agree that everybody knows what Movember is. It's had an incredible impact, not only on the awareness of the fact that men who are sort of getting older, maybe in their 40s and getting into their early 50s, should be screened for prostate cancer because, as you mentioned, it's the diagnosis of prostate cancer. 1 in 8 men will get prostate cancer in their lifetime. But I think what people don't realize is about 3% of all men will die of aggressive prostate cancer. And like many other cancers, prostate cancer is much more treatable if it's caught early.
Well, give us a call if you're out there wondering about prostate cancer, its treatment, its diagnosis, what the stats are. Give us a call, 204-780-0893. So tell me, how dangerous, you say 3% of men will die, but how dangerous is prostate cancer for men, kind of big picture?
Sure. Yeah. Well, prostate. So the prostate organ is a gland about the size of a walnut that sort of sits under your bladder. And as you get older, there's a greater chance that you'll develop some sort of cancer in your prostate. And it mostly goes undetected. And I like to describe prostate cancer as 2 diseases. One we call indolent. So you can develop prostate cancer that you just never realize you have, and you can live an entire, happy life without knowing it's there. But every once in a while, you can develop a prostate cancer that becomes aggressive, metastatic. That means it spreads outside the prostate, and that becomes an extremely dangerous disease that's very difficult to treat, and can very easily end your life early. So it's definitely advisable, particularly if you have a family history, if you have other members of your family who've been diagnosed with prostate cancer, to start getting screened. Ask your family doctor about screening when you're around 45, late 40s. And the way we screen, around the world for prostate cancer is this very simple blood test called the PSA, or prostate-specific antigen test. And if it's elevated, unfortunately, this test is not super accurate, but it's a good screening tool to say if you might have prostate cancer. And then if you have an elevated PSA test, it's recommended that you get additional testing to really refine, whether you need to go ahead and get a biopsy or other treatments.
Well, it's a very important topic, and I'm going to go to the phone lines right away to get the point of view of Richard, who's called in. Hello, Richard.
Yes, I'm a prostate cancer survivor. I've had my prostate removed when I was about 55. I'm 3 years past post-surgery now. Like they said, the PSA test is really important. I had a biopsy about 5 years after monitoring. Couldn't find anything. Another 2 years go by, another biopsy, then they found it. Then I ended up with prostate surgery. Had some complications, but I'm alive and well at 58, and I'm a retired firefighter. Just wanting to make everybody aware that the presumptive legislation looks out for firefighters and done a wonderful job with me.
And it was originally from the test that suspicions were raised, and they looked for the prostate diagnosis?
Totally. I was monitored for 7 years before they ever decided to do surgery, and just slowly kept monitoring it. And then at a certain point, they decided after a biopsy and multiple tests, then they ended up doing the surgery. So monitoring it, knowing your health, knowing your PSA score is just so vital important.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you very much for giving us a call. And if other people have stories of survival, early detection, and just their story in general of their prostate health, do give us a call, 204-780-0893. John, would you care to comment on Richard's story? Is it something common that you've heard, or is this unusual?
No, it's a great story. So Richard obviously was on top of his health, and his family doctor was on top of his health as well. Got regular PSA screenings, and he brings up a good point. Monitoring it, until you absolutely have to do a biopsy or feel like there's a danger is really important. As I mentioned, the PSA test itself is a great sort of early warning tool, but actually 80 to 85% of the time, an elevated PSA it doesn't mean prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. So it's really important to follow along, see if it's increasing, potentially get other adjunctive tests such as an MRI or one of the other biochemical tests available to make a decision about whether to get a biopsy. And in Richard's case, he got surgery when the prostate cancer was localized, which means it's entirely treatable through surgery. It sounds like a great story.
Well, this is why it's so important to get the facts and learn what goes into the various diagnoses. I've heard it said too that prostate cancer was, perhaps not now, but at one time overtreated because, as you say, there are the two kinds, the indolent and then the aggressive form. Are they easy to confuse during diagnosis or not?
No, that's a great question. So for about 20 years in my lab, that's really what we've been focused on, is trying to figure out how to better distinguish between indolent and aggressive cancer. And so in the mid-'80s, we started screening more for using the PSA test to detect prostate cancer. Mm-hmm. But the issue is that if you, based on this high PSA test, if you biopsy regularly with a high PSA, you're going to detect a lot of indolent cancer. And you're probably, with a diagnosis of cancer, you're likely to say, I want it out. And this creates potentially lifelong side effects. Mm-hmm. So the U.S. and Canadian task force about 10 years ago recommended against PSA screening broadly. But the problem with that is that reduced the early detection for many men, and so many more aggressive cancers sort of became diagnosed later. So I think the best strategy, and one we've been working on for a while, is additional tests that sit on top of PSA that help increase the confidence if you have aggressive prostate cancer or indolent prostate cancer.
I see. Well, let's return to the phone lines. Vivian has a rather pertinent question. Hi, Vivian.
Hi. This is all really very interesting, but I have no clue what a prostate is or what it's for. Is it like an appendix that we don't need anymore? Or what is it? What's it for?
That's a great question. So the prostate is absolutely important. It's a gland about the size of the walnut that sits under the prostate, and it's responsible for making essential fluids for reproduction and reproductive health.
For men.
For men. Sorry, women do not have one.
Does that answer your question, Vivian?
The PSA test, when you say if it's high, like are we looking at a scale from 1 to 100, 1 to 3, 1 to, like, how do you know if it's high?
That's a great question. So PSA is an enzyme that's only inside prostate cells in a man. And so if it leaks out into the blood, something's going on with the prostate. It doesn't have to be cancer, it could be an infection. But it's measured in nanograms per milliliter. And so it depends a little bit on your age, but generally if it's above 3 nanograms per milliliter, it's considered abnormal, and generally it's recommended to have some sort of follow-up.
Does that answer your question, Vivian? Anything else you'd like to ask? Okay.
No, that's great. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for calling. And if anybody else has a question or a comment or a story to share, do give us a call, 204-780-0893, or you can text at 204-588-7355. And I have lots more questions for John. With the different kinds of prostate cancer, the indolent and the aggressive, are they so different that is one possibly genetic and one not? And what are the risk factors in general for prostate cancer?
Yeah, that's a great question. So generally, the greatest risk factor for prostate cancer is age. So as men age, they're continually increasing chances of getting prostate cancer. Prostate cancer also has a very strong genetic component, which, as I mentioned earlier, if you have, especially if you have 2 family members, that have been diagnosed with prostate cancer in the past, you have a much higher chance of having prostate cancer yourself. Now, there are some specific genes. We know for breast cancer, women get tested for BRCA1, which is very important in both the diagnosis and prevalence of breast cancer, but also the outcome. And so this gene has also been identified for prostate cancer. Less on whether you're more likely to get prostate cancer, but definitely if you're more likely to get the aggressive kind of prostate cancer. So, and unfortunately, prostate cancer, in the early stages doesn't have a lot of symptoms. So you can live with, early stage aggressive prostate cancer, and your PSA can be rising, but you would never know it. Generally, as it becomes more advanced, you can have, painful urination, hip pain, potentially bone pain if it gets more advanced. But this is why, I advocate for screening so strongly, because there aren't generally a lot of symptoms when it's early and treatable.
And why do you think men are so reluctant to get not treated so much, but tested or to talk about prostate cancer?
That's a great question. So honestly, I've had thousands of conversations with men, and when you get into it, they're happy to tell their whole story. But I think in general, men are much more likely to, if they have maybe some symptoms or thinking about screening or even going to see a doctor, I guess have been conditioned to be strong and keep things to themselves. And I think in this particular case, you have to take control of your own health. Your ability to work and to provide and to do all the things you want to do in your life, take care of your children, for instance, are dependent upon your health. And prostate cancer is a very real danger that is completely preventable if we're vigilant.
Well, I think the Movember campaign has really, really helped by adding a little humor and so on to the whole campaign, and maybe making it sort of normalizing it for everybody to talk to, which is always a good thing. But if somebody is reluctant and somebody else in their family thinks that, well, maybe, you're the right age and you should get tested, are there some persuasive tools or lines of chat that you can suggest?
Yeah, that's a great question. I didn't develop any of the ad campaigns for Movember, but I think it's more about I think it's more about just taking control of your health. We're in an age where we have a lot more information about our health. We're wearing, watches that keep track of our steps and our heart rate variability. And so knowing, I think we're becoming much more familiar with, how our bodies perform. And I think the idea of just getting a simple blood test to prevent something that could be potentially devastating, I think is really important thing. And it's super simple.
And how much have things changed in terms of treatment and survival rates over the past decades?
Yeah, so again, with the beginning of screening in the mid-'80s, we identified a lot of cancers that were hiding, and mortality in Canada and the U.S. has improved considerably over the past 30 years. Treatments also, 30 years ago, there were basically no treatments for metastatic prostate cancer. Now we have more than a dozen, and they're prolonging lives considerably.
Well, and before I let you go, you and your team are working on a new screening tool. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, sure. So I mentioned how the PSA test, it's a sensitive test, but at 80% of the time or 85% of the time, it's elevated, but it isn't cancer. And of course, if you want to diagnose prostate cancer definitively, you need a biopsy, which is a pretty invasive procedure. So we saw a huge need for a non-invasive tool to better predict which men need a biopsy. And we developed a test in our academic lab called ClarityDX Prostate that combines a couple of easy-to-get biochemical tests that are available pretty much every diagnostic testing center with a machine learning algorithm that improves the detection of cancer, aggressive cancer, by 3 to 4 times. So a huge benefit in terms of accuracy, but very easy to do because it's basically math-based and can be done in any clinic in Canada or the U.S.
Well, I'm just going to let you have the last word. What's your basic message this Movember for all the men out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So take control of your health. As you get into your late 40s, early 50s, definitely tell your family doctor about screening for prostate cancer, ask for a PSA test, and stay on top of your health.
Well, thank you so much for being with us this Movember. It's been very informative and interesting to have you on the show. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lori.
John Lewis is a professor of oncology in the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry at the University of Alberta. Well, former Canadian Idol finalist Tyler Mullendore is getting ready to share a new EP. The latest single from it is all about a longing for the past while hoping for a future that's always just out of reach. This is Tyler Mullendore with Living the Dream.
Somebody saying something about where you've been is who you are. Well, life is funny sometimes, and it's a winding road. Some folks get a free ride, some on a heavy load. Some call it wild stuff. By so fast, only flies one way. There was a time he was on his way, never sells for a little bit of money, then he drinks it all away. Some kind of wild stuff. I call it living a dream. Might have made it 20 years ago. If we just get clear, they'd be living a dream. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Living a
Tyler Mullendore, Living the Dream.
Oh my God. joke. Whoa, my joints.
Radio Noon returning to his roots because that's Labrador City gardener Dina Bellows pulling one enormous turnip out of the ground. To be precise, that turnip is exactly 36.5 pounds. Adrina spoke with CBC's Daryl Din about the giant veggie.
Hi, my name is Adina Bellows, and we grew this ginormous turnip. They're only normally like the size of a softball, maybe a little bigger, but this one turned into be 36.5 pounds.
And did you have a sense of the size? Like, I know you can see the turnip top, but did you have a sense of how big it was underneath?
No, we knew it was going to be large because the last time that I measured it across the top, because there was only so much sticking out of it out of the ground, it was 15 inches. But then when we pulled it out a couple of weeks later, turned out it was actually 18 inches, and we never realized how big it was going to be on the bottom. I guess it's kind of like an iceberg.
You pulled this a couple of weeks ago. You're going to be cutting it today.
Yes.
I guess any theories to what it's going to be like or what it's going to taste like or...
Well, I had 8 turnip in total put in to the garden, and all my turnips were huge this year. They averaged, some were 12 pound, 14 pound, 20 pound, 20.5 pound, 21 pound, and this one 36.5 pound. All the rest of them were excellent. They were nice. They were firm. No rot, no root maggot. So I'm really hoping that this one is going to be the exact same.
And what kind of seed did you use for this one?
It's a Laurentian.
Have you used this before? Or?
No, this is my first time. I always, in the past, ever did white turnip. But this time I decided I'd like to try a yellow turnip.
And I assume you'll be sticking with Laurentian for future turnips?
Yes, indeed I will, yes.
Wow, that turnip would make a lot of pots of soup, I gotta say. I'm joined in studio by guest host Emily Brass, who's hosting Up to Speed this afternoon. Hello.
Hi there. So we got a special surprise.
Hey, quit that.
Oh, Lori, it's coming.
Oh.
So we might not have snow on the ground yet, but it is beginning to look a lot like Christmas in downtown Winnipeg. You know, those street pole Christmas lights have already been installed with the angels and stars, and it's all because Santa Claus is coming to town.
He always comes quite early.
He comes very early, you know, because he has to get back and take care of all those last minute details before the big run on Christmas.
He should be better organized. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you know, staff shortages. I guess it's happening in the North Pole too. So the Santa Claus Parade takes place Saturday. We're going to speak with the parade director, Monica Dirksen, because Santa couldn't quite make it in today. And that's going to be first thing on Up to Speed.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you, Lori.
And you can tune in to Up to Speed from 3 to 6 with guest host Emily Brass. Thank you very much to our technician, Marshall Hodgins, to director Wendy Parker, and to YouTube live stream guy, Kevin Nipatebo. And thank you to everyone who tuned into Radio Noon today for all our stories from giant turnips to dog houses to talking about the importance of men's health. And we will talk to you again tomorrow. Enjoy the sun and the wind. Bye.